Alrighty, so here I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of a proof where you're dealing with a segment bisector. So let's take a look at the given. It says that segment AB is congruent to segment ED, and segment CA is congruent to segment CE, and segment AC bisects segment AD. So this is what you call, sorry, I'm trying to tell you that this right here, this little, statement here is saying that you're dealing with a segment bisector. Okay, and we'll get into what a segment bisector is after we mark our given on our picture. So it says that segment AB is congruent to segment ED. So AB is congruent to ED. And I know it's already marked for us, but I'm going to mark it again. So this, I can go ahead and check off. Segment CA is congruent to segment CE. Here's segment CA. And then here's segment CE. They're congruent. Even though they're marked, I'm going to go ahead and mark them again. Okay? And know that segment AC is bisecting BD. So when you have a segment bisector, it's going to create a midpoint at C, okay? And if C is the midpoint, so first of all, it creates a midpoint C. I'm going to go ahead and just draw a little dot there at C. So if C is the midpoint, then that means that this segment here and this segment here are congruent. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 3 check marks there and 3 check marks there. Then segment BC has to be congruent to segment CD, right? And you can see by the congruency statement here, they both share C, so that implies that C has to be the midpoint, okay? So let me go ahead and look at my picture again. Okay, my goal here is to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to EDC. And note that, okay, just by looking at the tick marks here, this is congruent to this. 1 tick mark there, 1 tick mark there. This is congruent to this, so 2 tick marks there, 2 tick marks there. And then this is congruent to that. 3 tick marks there, 3 tick marks there. So what does this say? Well, I can say that these 2 triangles are congruent by side, side, side. Okay, hopefully that makes some sense. So now that you have an idea on, now that you have an idea of, these 2 triangles are congruent. Why are they congruent? By side, side, side. Because we've marked our picture. We can see it. Now I'm going to go ahead and put all that information on paper. So number 1, given, that should be easy. And then here, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDC. Okay, or let me go ahead and just start over, because I think it's just so much better if we understand what's going on from, beginning to end. So segment AB is congruent to segment ED, and segment CA is congruent to segment CE. And know that segment AC bisects segment BD, and this is because of that given here, okay? And number 2, we can see that segment AC bisects segment BD. So what happens when segment AC bisects segment BD? Well, by definition of segment bisector, so this is because of definition of segment bisector, it creates that midpoint C. So C is the midpoint of what? C is the midpoint of what? Of segment BD, right? And then from here to here, if C is the midpoint, well, the result of that is this. Segment BC is congruent to segment CD, because that's definition of midpoint. So by definition of midpoint, we can say the segment BC is congruent to segment CD. And then lastly, we are going to write the proof. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDC by, well, what did we say? We said this. Side, side, side. Or I should put that in red, because it's already in red. Okay? So so this video is an example of a proof where you're dealing with a segment bisector.